Hi and welcome to my channel. In this video you will learn reinforcing a simple beam, adjusting the intersected rebar in the column beam intersection area, reinforcing a second levels column that ends at the roof, then adjusting the intersected rebar. After that we will reinforce the roof and the floor of the second level, and finally we will reinforce wall footings. Use the timestamps in the description box to go directly to the paragraphs if you wish so. Let's continue from where we left. In the project browser area, open Level 2 structural plan. Let's make a callout in this area. Change the detail level to fine. Hide the previous rebar in this view temporarily. Hide the sections also. Now let's make new sections. Use the flip handle to flip its orientation. Open the section view by double-clicking the bubble circle. Drag the level annotation to the side. Open the other section view also and move the level annotation to the side. Now in detail 1, notice the beam area. Select it and click rebar. Scroll down and for the stirrup rebar select the shape MT1. Change the rebar size to 10 mm. Click inside the beam, then change the level of detail to fine. Change the number of rebars to maximum spacing, then type 200 mm. Go to the Properties area and enable the visibility of the rebar in the 3D rebar view. select the rebar and enable it in the Level 2 structural view. Now in the Level 2 structural view, select the rebar and drag it to the left for the whole length of the beam. Do the same with the right side and drag the rebar for the whole length of the beam. Now select the beam again and click rebar. Scroll up and for the longitudinal rebar use the shape M0. Change the direction to perpendicular to the cover. Change the size to 13 mm. Change the number of bars to fixed and the quantity to 2. Hover to the bottom right side and click. Press the escape button to leave the rebar command. Now select the rebar and enable its visibility in the Level 2 structural view. In the Level 2 structural view, use the handle to drag the rebar to the whole length of the beam, similar to what we did with the stirrup rebar. And hide the rebar in detail 0, then hide the footings rebar and keep the Level 1 columns rebar. Notice we have an intersection problem between the columns rebar and the beams rebar. Click the 3 dots button to open the rebar cover settings menu. Let's add several sizes so we can solve the intersection problem. Now click cover again and select the beam. Watch the area and change the size to 40 millimeters. If you notice that changing the beam cover dragged with it the columns cover. I don't know why Revit did that. Now select the column stirrup and drag it to its proper cover location. And that's how we solve the intersection problem. Now the rebars are far from each other. Now in Detail 1 view, select the longitudinal rebars and mirror them to the upper part. Use the middle point of the stirrup as a reference. In the Level 2 structural view, change graphics display options to wireframe to see the columns rebar. Now that we finished this beam properly, let's propagate it to another beam. Change the cover size, then adjust the intersected rebars. Using the same method, propagate the rebar to all the beams, then adjust the cover sizes and the intersected rebars. In in the end you should have something like this. Now let's work on level 2's columns. Extend the views to show the column as you see on the screen. Let's create a section detail for this column. Extend the section's far end to include the beam and the column from level 1. Double-click the section bubble to open the section view. Hide the beam's rebar temporarily. Change the detail to fine. Click Cover, then select the column. Change it to 40 millimeters. Select the column and click Rebar. Scroll up and for the longitudinal rebars choose the shape M0. Change the direction to perpendicular to cover. Change the size to 13 mm. Hover near the upper right rebar and click. Select the new rebar again and change its size to 16 mm. Use the arrow keys on the keyboard to nudge it a little bit. Let's create another cover size of 50 millimeters. Select the column again and click Rebar. Scroll down and for the stirrup shape choose MT1. Change the direction to parallel to the work plane. Change the size to 10 mm. Click inside the column. Okay, this stirrup looks far from the rebar's edges. Click cover and select the column again and change the cover to 40 mm. Now it looks okay. Click the rebar and move it to the left side. Change the rebar quantity to a fixed number with 2 rebars. Check this rebar set in the other views. Select the rebar set and mirror it to the bottom. Use the stirrup's midpoint as a reference for the mirroring process. Select one of the rebar sets, then create a similar to create the rebar set for the middle of the column. Align the newly created rebar set to the middle axis of the column. Select the stirrup and change its quantity to maximum distance, then type 150 mm. Now let's open the 3D rebar view. Notice that the columns rebar are still not visible here. Go back and adjust the section detail far end to show only the column of the second level. Open the section detail view and select all the rebars. In the properties area, enable their visibility in the 3D rebar view. See, now they are visible. Now select all the rebars of the first level and hide them temporarily. We don't need them to intersect with our work on the second level. Hide the roof also. Since we finished one column's rebar of the second level properly, let's propagate it to all the second level columns. Let's open the roof structural plan. Select all the rebar of the columns and make it visible in the roof structural plan. Change the detail to fine. Hide the floor temporarily. Adjust the cover to 40 mm similar to the column. Repeat the process to all level 2 columns. Let's start working on level 2 beams. Select the beam, then click rebar. Scroll down and for the stirrup shape choose MT1. Change the orientation to parallel to the work plane. Change the size to 10 mm. Click inside the beam. Select the beam again and click rebar. Scroll up and for the longitudinal rebars choose the shape M0. Change the orientation to perpendicular to cover. Change the bar size to 13 mm. Change the quantity to a fixed number with 2 rebars. Click at the bottom of the beam. Select the rebars and enable their visibility on the structural roof plan. In the roof structural plan, use the handle to drag the bars to the whole length of the beam. Mirror the rebar set to the top of the beam. Use the stirrups midpoint as a reference for the mirroring. Select the stirrup of the beam, change its quantity to maximum spacing, then type 200 mm. Use the handle and drag the stirrup set to the whole length of the beam. Now use this beam and propagate it to all other beams of this view. In the end, you should have something like this. Now let's start working on the floor's reinforcement. Select the roof's floor, then click Area Reinforcement. Click Yes. Now go to the folder path on the screen. Select the M Area Reinforcement tag, then click Open. Let me check the Properties area. It's all fine. Use the drawing tools to draw the area of the roof's floor. Click the Finish button. Now, while the reinforcement area is still selected, go to the Properties area and enable their visibility on the 3D rebar view. Enable their visibility on the roof's plan also. Change the cover size for the floor to 20 mm. Use the same method to install level 2 floor rebar. In the end, you should have something like this. Finally, let's work on the wall footings. Let's create structural floor plans for both the top and the bottom of the footing. At the top of the footing plan, hide the floor. hide the CMU walls category. Let's make a detail section for this wall footing. Open the detail section view. Adjust the scale to something small so we can move the level annotations aside. Select the wall footing and click rebar. Scroll down and for the stirrup shape choose MT1. Change the size to 10 mm. Click inside the wall footing. Scroll up and for the longitudinal rebars choose the shape M0. Change the orientation to perpendicular to cover. Change the bar size to 22 mm. Change the quantity to a fixed number with 4 rebars for the top of the footing. Click at the top of the footing. Change the quantity to a fixed number with 2 rebars for the bottom of the footings. Click at the bottom of the footing. Select all the rebar and enable its visibility in the 3D rebar and top of the footing plans. Select the stirrup rebar and change its quantity to maximum spacing, then type on 50 mm. In the top of the footing line, adjust the intersected rebar with the column's footings. Use the handles to drag the rebar away from the column's footings. In the 3D rebar view, enable the section box option. Click the box and use the handles to minimize it to the foundation area only. Now that we've finished one wall footing rebar properly, let's propagate it to the others. Adjust the intersected rebar in the top of the footing plan. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Don't forget to use the buttons below. Like, subscribe and comment. Be in peace.